because like New York is so dense, right? So on one side of the block, it could be a whole other thing, but literally you cross the street and it's a whole nother culture.
Yeah,
and that's how it is on Flushing. Because on Flushing, going like on Flushing, not Queens, but Flushing here in Brooklyn.
Okay.
On the Brooklyn side, on this side it's like Hasidic Jews, and then on the other side it's like government housing and projects. So it's a lot of Latino and Black. So it's just so funny when everyone in the streets is crossing, and it's like, oh, that's New York.
Yeah.
What up?
I'm Bianca.
And I'm Adrianne.
And we're two independent women living in New York City, going through a lot of stuff.
And that's why we're here, to share our experiences, and hopefully you'll learn something from it.
Or you can laugh with us.
In this episode of Women in the Wild,
what are we talking about?
We're talking about our life in New York City. Specifically, the neighborhoods that we've lived in, our favorite things to do around the city, and then we'll do a speed round of firsts around New York City. So stay tuned till the very end, because it's going to be a jam-packed episode.
So, the reason why we started this episode in this new location is because you may notice this is a new environment, a new place.
Again.
At the beginning of season 2, the first 5 episodes, we were recording in Crown Heights, which is where I was living before. But now, episode 6, it's a new apartment because I moved again. Because if you watch my mini documentary, I explained how I was going to the Dominican Republic, but then that kind of got screwed up because of coronavirus, and then that made me rearrange all my plans. And I was supposed to go to DR now in August. We're filming this in August. But I thought I might just go and come back, because at the end of the day I want to live in New York, not the Dominican Republic. So I just moved. I'm going to DR in 10 days from now. We'll probably do an episode while I'm there, Zoom or something.
Yeah.
And then I'll be back in September here, and we'll keep recording here. So a lot of moving. I'm sure everyone has some crazy coronavirus story. This is just part of mine and Adrian's. And
lots of moving this year for both of us.
And we just appreciate that you guys keep watching despite all the craziness.
Yeah, today we're going to focus more on the positive sides of what it is to live in New York City. Yeah. It's been such an uncertain kind of season for this whole year. A lot of the things, even if we plan it out in advance, we can't really, nothing really stays in place. So we've had to really just go with the flow, adapt, and try to adjust when things arise. So yeah, it's been an exciting time in New York City. There's not much to do right now, so we're gonna go be nostalgic today. And we're gonna start with the neighborhoods that we first lived in.
Yeah.
Do you want to start?
Sure.
Yeah.
So for the people listening, actually, I just realized they probably don't see where we are.
Oh, yes.
We're just in my bedroom, but the location that we're in is Ridgewood / Bushwick. I'm like, at
You're
the
a cusper.
End, yeah, I keep moving to cusps. I'm never like fully in a neighborhood. Even in Crown Heights, it was like the cusp of Crown Heights and Prospect Heights. When I was in Bedstuy, it was the cusp of Bedstuy and Williamsburg. And now I'm at the cusp of Ridgewood and Bushwick.
Yeah, well, I'm almost in the same boat because I'm in the Broadway Triangle. So I'm in between...
That's like
Bedstuy, Williamsburg, and Bushwick.
Yeah, just like everywhere at once, basically.
And it's funny because you're off of the Myrtle Wyckoff stop. And this was my first neighborhood when I first moved to New York 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, I lived on Woodbine Street with a gay couple. So yeah, it was kind of fun to visit the neighborhood. And you're in a more accessible part of it because I was like 10 minutes away from the train, whereas you're just right down the block from it.
Right. But yeah, I think we should say, since we've both been in different neighborhoods, we should say what the difference between them are.
Mm-hmm.
Which one do we like best?
Yeah. So should we go back and forth? Or?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I said it. So my first neighborhood was here in Bushwick. And again, like stages, right? With every apartment, you start to learn like what you can and can live without, and what your budget is. It also changes depending on the kind of stage of life and career and liquid cash you have. So when I first moved into Bushwick, I chose this neighborhood specifically because it was along the L line, and I worked in Union Square at the time, fresh out of college, really first job in the city. So I just needed something cheap, practical. I did a month-to-month situation. So for those like trying to look into a place or like be a first-time New Yorker, one of the first things that I was very proud making a decision on is like there are month-to-month options. Like I moved here on my own. I didn't have guarantors or much family around. So it was important for me to have that flexibility. And plus, like, I'm so new to the city and as an adult. So it was nice to kind of explore like what I wanted in the neighborhood. And then I like Bushwick so much that I still stayed within that area, but more long-term, I ended up signing a lease off of the Jefferson L. That was fun because all the bars are there.
So that was the second place you lived?
Yeah, so the first place was about 10 minutes from the train. Still a decent commute because my office was right outside of Union Square. But later on, I just wanted something more long-term. At that point, I also didn't really want to live with a couple. That's also another thing I learned. I don't know if you're going to like live with a couple, be prepared for that. It's got its pros and cons.
We talk about that in episode
3 or 4. Yeah, we will link it. You can click somewhere up here. But we did talk about that. So one of the things I loved about Bushwick is like there's a lot of places to eat, super accessible. I think it's nice because the L train takes you across town, and then there's an M and a J train that takes you from Midtown to even downtown if you need it.
Takes you everywhere, every borough even.
Exactly.
It goes into Queens, Manhattan, and Brooklyn.
Yeah, so I have a doctor's appointment today at Murray Hill, and I'm going to get there with L, transfer to the 6. Very easy ride, 30 minutes. From here, from your current apartment.
Right.
It's not bad.
Okay.
What was your...
So my first place that I moved was, which I also talk about in that roommates episode, when I lived with the older lady in Sunnyside, Queens.
I almost forget that you lived there.
Yeah. Now we're going back to Queens. I mean, it wasn't bad. I just remember feeling like I was the only young person around. Like, Sunnyside is beautiful and it's very calm. It's very safe. And it's just beautiful. It's clean. You know, the buildings are nice, but it's like a bit too calm for my liking. It has like a suburban vibe to it. And I'm like young, trying to have fun, having friends around, and I felt like so alone in Sunnyside. So that's actually one of the reasons I moved. Other than the fact that I didn't want to live with an older lady, I moved because I was like, I need to go to where the young crowd is, which is Brooklyn. I mean, at least the north of Brooklyn. You know, like Williamsburg, Bushwick,
Greenpoint,
yeah, Bedstuy. So that's when I moved to Bedstuy, and I liked Bedstuy. I mean, that allowed us to start our podcast.
It did.
I was closer to you. I also made new friends. That was the summer I met Martina, who also was, whenever she stayed here, was in Brooklyn. What else? I mean, I basically made my social life in Williamsburg. Like, even every time I would go out was in Williamsburg, so it was good to be close. The G line is great, man, because it's like every cool spot in Williamsburg is like a stop in the G line.
And you worked in Long Island City, so...
Yeah. I was still working in Long Island City. So both Sunnyside and Bedstuy were good commutes to Long Island City, because Sunnyside I could even walk if I wanted to. And from Bedstuy, it was just the G line all the way up, and it was like 25 minutes, something like that.
Give me a timeline. So you were in Sunnyside, Queens for how long? Total?
A year and a few months.
And then after that, you moved to Bedstuy, and then you were there for
a year.
One whole year.
Until the other day when coronavirus happened. That's why I moved. I mean, that was like my dream apartment. Remember how cute it was?
Yeah. We did a lot of things in that apartment.
Yeah.
I was there for your housewarming.
Yeah.
Goodness, that was the start of a beautiful friendship.
Yeah. It has a lot of memories. You know, the other day I went there because I had to pick up mail. And I was like, my apartment. Now someone else lives there now. But yeah.
Yeah, plus you had a good park nearby you too. But we'll talk about that in the end.
Yes.
So then now you're back in... So then full circle, back to today.
No. So from Bedstuy, let's go to you. Where did you live after Jefferson?
After Jefferson Street in Bushwick, the pandemic hit.
Really? So that was Star Street?
Off of the Jefferson stop. Sorry, the Jefferson stop on the L. That was Star Street. Okay, my bad. Okay. Sorry, I'm going off of train lines just to be vague. Okay. But when I lived out in Bushwick, I was there for about a total of 2 years because I was there on and off. Like I was there for a year on a lease, and then shortly after that, I think. After the eighth month, I had it sublet because I moved in with my partner at the time. So then from there...
Right. See, so you had a Manhattan moment.
I did have a Manhattan moment.
Talk to us about your Manhattan moment.
My Manhattan moment, I was there for a year and a half. So I think I moved there in November, in winter. And yeah, I lived with a previous partner at the time, and he was based on and grew up in the Lower East Side. So it was nice because at the time I was also still working in Union Square. So I would bike to work, get there in 12 minutes. It was beautiful. Or like if it was a day that I didn't feel like biking or I just wanted to take my time, I could just walk home. So that was like the best really commute. Like I got a really good Manhattan experience. And plus, like, the East Village and, like, St. Mark's, that's where... At the time, I was in my younger 20s, so I fully took advantage of that. Like, St. Mark's with all the college kids and all the young crowd. Chinatown.
Even for older 30-year-olds or whatever, Lower East Side is always going to be an awesome spot.
Yes, Tompkins Square Park, I would always go there. And one of the good things is that it's also, like, you can go to Chinatown so easily. So me as a Filipino American, like, I need to be near an Asian supermarket. So that was also super accessible, which was very nice. You could just bike around. Like, the whole thing about Manhattan is it got me to bike around, and that was, like, my most favorite thing. You could literally go park hopping. But at some point I was just like, I actually love Bushwick so much that when that relationship ended, I was like, actually I want to move back to Bushwick. And so then I ended up back in that Star Street apartment because they're my old friends. Things worked out. Same neighborhood. I mean, I loved it so much because it was also by Maria Hernandez Park. Still lots of good places to eat without even having to really go to Williamsburg even, because Bushwick is like an up-and-coming young neighborhood. So yeah, that was my Manhattan moment, and I still ended up in Bushwick anyway, and now I'm in East Williamsburg on the cusp of everything.
Yeah, and I remember when I think we were talking on the phone while you were doing your world tour, and we were talking about how you were moving back to Bushwick and how close we were to each other. And I think that's really, like, when you finally moved back to Bushwick, that's really when we became very, very close.
Exactly.
Like, before then, it was like, yeah, I remember I even visited you in Manhattan. But even that day that I visited you there, it was like, we were cool, but we weren't, like, super, super close.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you moved back.
Well, I didn't also really have my own space. I was living with a partner and their family, so it was kind of different at the time. Now I have a courtyard, a rooftop. You're so close by. Yesterday we went to the beach with my roommates, so since you're along the L, we can just meet at Broadway Junction, transfer to the A, and take the A together all the way. So that's pretty convenient to be on the same line.
Yeah, for those of you watching the video of this episode, you might notice are tans. It's from the beach.
It's from the beach. Just 2
ago.
days ago. Yesterday doesn't even feel like anything because I was just recovering from Monday.
Same. It feels like we went yesterday, but in reality, like yesterday was just like a empty day.
Like a breather from all that heat.
Yes. So I was in Bedstuy until coronavirus happened. Then I had to do the whole move, which we already explained in like previous episodes of this season. I was in Crown Heights, and you know what? Crown Heights actually surprised me because the things you hear about Crown Heights is like, oh, there's nothing to do there. Apparently, there's like a lot. People know Crown Heights for having like Jews and blacks like always getting into fights. I didn't know that, but the other day someone told me that. I'm like, really? I lived there for a few months and never saw that. But Crown Heights is also huge. And like I said, I was like all the way to Prospect.
Yeah.
Like almost Prospect Heights, you could call it. So maybe on the other part of Crown Heights, that's where maybe it's a little bit more dangerous. I don't know. Like Utica Avenue.
Oh,
I've heard about
that's so
Utica
funny
Avenue.
that you say that because I feel like I had this conversation with another friend just last week about like just cultures because like New York is so dense, right? So on one side of the block it could be a whole other thing, but literally you cross the street and it's a whole nother culture.
Yeah,
and that's how it is on Flushing, because on Flushing, going like on Flushing, not Queens but Flushing here in Brooklyn, on the Brooklyn side, on this side it's like Hasidic Jews, and then on the other side it's like government housing and projects, so it's a lot of Latino and black, so it's just so funny when everyone in the streets is crossing and it's like, oh, that's New York.
Yeah, that is New York. That's how it was in Bedstuy, remember? Like I was on Kosciuszko, but then when you turned, I think it was Marcy Avenue, it was the whole Hasidic Jews community. And it's like, you just turn one corner and you're like in a whole different world. You're like, wait, I was just like at the deli. What happened?
But that's the best thing, because then we get all of the good food. Like, I think that's why we also can't move to like a not so diverse neighborhood, is because you, my friend, are a big foodie, coffee shop lover,
That's true.
just restaurant enthusiast. Yes, Bianca will actually share her guide because she's got a lot of things hearted, saved, and organized on Google Maps.
But yeah, I loved Crown Heights for the time that I was there. I didn't experience any kind of like problem in the streets, really, despite the fact that I was right in front of a homeless shelter, remember? It was like pretty chill, that area. But I have heard that like the cultures, they're just like big communities of black and big communities of Jews, and they're like right next to each other, so sometimes there's like some clashing there. And lastly, I just moved here a week ago. And it's been nice. I still have to explore around here. All I've really done around here is the corner cafe and then the corner bar.
Yeah, I've tried that.
They're
corner
both
bar.
good. You have?
I mean, well, not the corner bar. Sorry, the morning breakfast place.
The cafe. Coffee shop. Yeah. But they're both good. I'm pleased. I would go back. But I know there's a lot of stuff around here. Oh, food is good around here. Like there's a lot of Latino food. Actually, if you exit my building and you just like cross the street, there's a whole strip of like just Latin food, like, and it's just one block. I smelled it
biking here in the morning. That's why I was like, I'm ready for breakfast.
Oh yeah, she came in and she was like, what are we eating? I'm like, I'm usually the hungry one. What do you mean?
I don't eat past like, I get hungry at 5 p.m.
Yeah,
I ate breakfast before 11 today. That's something new. So,
but yeah, there's a block. It's just like one block, and in that same block,
it smells around
there's
here.
Like Mexican, Colombian, Peruvian, Dominican. Just like one right after the other. So
and a vegan place. So
yeah, it's
for everybody.
Yeah. So that's what I've noticed around here. Just a lot of options. I was telling Adrian, like, it's not the fanciest of neighborhoods. Like, if you go, I don't know, to Williamsburg, maybe the what do you call this? Like, the outside of the restaurants look cuter, or they're, like, a little bit more, I don't know, like, they aesthetic. a lot of like vintage looking places. Like they put effort into it to make it look cute. Here it's just like, we're all Latino. Like, you just need to know that there's someone's grandma cooking and you know the food's good. Like, we don't need to like lure you in with like cute chairs or like, I don't know, some fancy door. We don't care about that. It's just like, trust us, the food is good kind of a thing. And I've had, like, I've eaten in that strip a couple times now, and it's always amazing.
Yeah, for the price, you get it back in food instead of aesthetic. Yeah.
And, like, good prices. Because it's not, like, a flashy area, the prices are usually better. Because sometimes you get charged so much in, like, Williamsburg or another fancy neighborhood just because you're there.
Yep.
Whereas here you get maybe even more food. Better food, like more authentic because it's an actual like Mexican grandma somewhere cooking, and less money.
Yeah, it's a good first neighborhood, to be honest, and it's still my first neighborhood, and I haven't even barely left.
Yeah.
Because during the height of the pandemic, I was gonna move to Astoria. Remember? Because there was a room for $650.
Yeah, you talked about that in episode 1 of season 2.
Yeah, and I was so ready to move there, but it just wasn't gonna work. I was like, I have no friends there, and that's a really important thing for me. I mean, if you're still moving, like here and have no friends, I don't know. Maybe it would be different because then it would force me to like move and make friends. But at this point where like I already know where all of my friends are situated, I needed to be somewhere convenient. So it's like, okay, during a pandemic, I just need to be somewhere familiar. So I moved 5 minutes away from my old apartment.
Yeah. And that's the same reasoning I did when I was thinking about this place, because I had a few options. I had a second option in Crown Heights actually, and I would have moved with John actually, with my last roommate. And he's a great roommate, so I was like, that could work. But it was in Crown Heights, and like at the end of the day, the only person I know in Crown Heights is John. And like the second option, which was this one, I started like mapping out, and even in like my Google Maps, I have all my friends' addresses like marked, and you could see like my home is here, and like I have a friend here, a friend here, a friend here, and friend. I'm like
in the middle.
It makes so much sense, so much more sense for me to move somewhere where I know so many people around. Like my cousin, she has come visited me twice now, and is walking, just walk. It's just like a 10-minute walk, and you rode your bike here for
18 minutes. It's like a 2.3 mile. It's decent because it's still 5 stops away from the subway. But if you don't want to spend $2.75 each way, you get on a bike and it's no big deal.
But it's still so easy because the subway is so close.
It's
like,
so
I
close.
can just go to the subway and like I'll be in your house really quickly.
Yeah, if you don't want to break a sweat or freeze in the winter, we have that option. But remember, before it was like bike or nothing because there's no trains or buses. Like, good luck. It'll take you an hour because there's so many connections.
Yeah, and then, I have another group of friends that is like 3 stops away, and then Matt and Isabella, who you know, if they walk, I think it's like a 20-minute walk, but that's walking. Like, if I were to take a car, actually, I went to their house the other day with the bike, and it was 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah, didn't you go in the evening, too? Yeah, I think I saw that.
So, like, I am around so many people that I love. Like, that already has a whole nother value for me in terms of like where I'm gonna live. And then, you know, the subway is close, which is so important. In Crown Heights, it was always like a 10-minute walk or something to the subway, and I'm like, now it's fine, but then the winter comes and you're gonna be freezing and
it's like to one line. I think it's just the A and the E or whatever.
Yeah, here I have 2, which I also took into consideration the L.
Love the L.
Because I want to go to Manhattan fast because my brother now is in Manhattan. And, like, to get to my brother's house in Midtown is, like, 30 minutes.
That's what I'm saying. That's where I'm headed for my doctor's appointment today. Yeah. It's 36 minutes.
Yeah. Before it would be, like, an hour or something. Like, go all around Brooklyn and all around Manhattan. Now it's, like, directly to the middle of Manhattan. So it's pretty good.
It's freaking great. Yeah, I get to Union Square in, like, 18 minutes. It's so good. And there's a Trader Joe's now on Avenue A.
Oh, cool.
So once you get out of the subway, that's it. You're good.
Awesome.
Yeah, so let's move on to our favorite things around the city. We kind of already started talking about it, and I hyped up all your coffee recommendations.
So I'm gonna like name out actual coffee shops / restaurants, depending on the neighborhoods we've talked about.
Yeah.
You tell me the neighborhood, I tell you the place.
Okay.
Mark this down, guys, if you're in New York.
Okay, let's start with Williamsburg because we keep hyping it up.
Oh my god. Dude, can I show... Oh my... I wish people could see this.
We'll share a link.
Yeah, no, in the video I'll put this. So if you're listening, go to the YouTube version of this episode and go to a screenshot with all the locations. Where do we start in Williamsburg?
I'm gonna ask like features. Like if I wanted like a really like bright filled coffee shop. Like somewhere to like, I mean obviously these days we can't like sit and enjoy and park our butts on a laptop and, you know, spend all day there, but like what's a good most aesthetic one, I think.
Remember on oh my god, guys, we're so cheesy. On Valentine's Day, Adrianne and I celebrated each other. And
yeah, we had a girls' day.
And I bought you legit like a whole book telling you about how awesome you are.
Yes, it was like a fill in the blanks book of like just like things about appreciating me.
So
I
cheesy.
felt so loved. And then we went to that cafe. What was the name? Oh, we got our nails done. We got our faces. I got my face waxed and all that stuff.
So that place, I think, is one of the best coffee shops, remember? It's called Partner's Coffee.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and they sell ground coffee in some of the local Brooklyn bodegas and grocery stores, so.
Yeah, so I really recommend that one. It's big, too, and it's perfect for, like, working, to bring your laptop in. And then the entrance is all glass. So, like you said, a lot of light coming in. Also, I discovered this place. It's by my physical therapist.
While you look it up, I'll talk about, there's this place called Say Coffee, and that's another pretty bright place off of the Morgan L. And they're like a gratuity-free like coffee place. Their selection is pretty small, but they also brew their own coffee like in-house, which is really nice. Lots of plants, good lighting.
Oh my god, speaking of plants, there's a coffee shop and it's really small, but I legit think this is my favorite and cutest coffee shop I've ever been to.
Okay, favorite and cutest.
And it's really tiny, but that adds to the cuteness because it's full with plants.
Ooh, where is this?
It's plants everywhere. It's so like hippie. It's by Y7 Studio. The location, I'll tell you now, but it's called PPL, like people, I guess. PPL, I don't know. It's by Roebling Street and South First. I remember I used to go to Y7, which is the yoga place, and then get a coffee right after. So cute. And their matcha is bomb. I actually went once and I'm like, can I buy your matcha, like your actual matcha bag? Because this is so good. And I have like my matcha.
Oh yeah,
thingy.
you make it proper with a whisk and everything. But the bamboo whisk. Yeah,
but they weren't selling it.
Dang. Okay, so coffee shops in Williamsburg, covered some of that, and one in Bushwick. What else? Something in Bedstuy, because you live there. You lived there for like one whole year. Yeah, a coffee shop.
Or maybe like, okay, coffee shop, Burley Coffee, which is the one that was next to my house, like around the block. That was a good coffee shop. And also there's one called, actually, that was
the one by the park with a good pumpkin bread.
Oh, that's like something Fox, but that's not even that great either.
Okay, see, she knows everything.
I mean, it's good, and they did have good pumpkin bread, but Little Roy it's called.
Okay.
But now that I think about it, the most beautiful coffee shop that I've been to in Bedstuy is called Stone Fruit. Stone Fruit Espresso. I don't know if I ever took you there, Adrian, but it's so...
Wait, but why does this look familiar? But I don't think I've ever been.
Look how cute. It's like full of plants. It's actually, you can buy plants there because it's like half a coffee shop, half a, what do you call that?
Oh, cafe. Like a co-working space.
A place where you sell plants. Plant shop.
Plant shop.
Half coffee shop, half plant shop. So it's filled with beautiful plants and you can buy them if you want. And it's also a really big space where you can work. I think that's the best coffee shop in Bedstuy.
All right, so we got cute coffee shop, light-filled coffee shop, beautiful coffee shop.
But in Bedstuy, I really recommend if you're out to like just get whatever's best in Bedstuy, I think it's their ramen in Samurai Papa. Remember we almost went?
Don't even tell me, because it's gonna be a rainy week. There's a Samurai Papa right by me that's not even 5 minutes, like almost around the corner, but they closed the one in Williamsburg.
But go to mine. You're in Herbert Von King all the time anyway.
I know. And then that's the one that stayed open. So it's funny because like I wanted to get it for pickup the other day. And they don't do pickup in the Williamsburg location. They just do it in Bedstuy, and the Bedstuy one was a little bit too far at that point. But man,
well, if you ever go to the park, you might as well just stop there because it's so close. By the way, that's another good thing about Bedstuy, the park, Herbert Von King. I always have to like stop and think because it's so weird just to say that. But I used to be close to that park, and I miss it because it's a good park. It's a
low-key park.
It's a low-key park. Like, no one talks about it. It looks small in the map.
Maybe we shouldn't talk about it. Shh, guys, don't tell.
Yeah. But then when you go there, it's huge. And there's, like, a lot of green space to just lay on the grass. Great.
Yeah, it's not like Maria Hernandez where, like, there's a skating portion in the middle, lots of courts, and then, like the playground and then the dog run. Otherwise, there's like a cement track around, but there isn't a lot of like space to lay down.
Dude, I gotta check out Maria Hernandez. I've been looking for a track to run.
Oh, well, then that's what. Yeah, it's like a cement track, and then it'll like there's like mile markers, like 1/4 of a mile. And
I need to check it. I've never been actually.
It's a small track, so you'll actually have a pretty decent time.
Okay.
I biked along it on the way here, so it's definitely on the way.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a good park to do that and like skate, but. Herbert Von King is a good place to lay out, grab a blanket, and just chill there. Because I've done days where it's like... We've done it where it's like 4 o'clock and then it's like, oh my gosh, it's already dark.
Yep. What else?
What
other neighborhood should I suggest?
I won't do neighborhoods, but one of the favorite things that I do love around the city... And it's open now because July 15th they started opening up and doing ferry reservations. Governor's Island. I highly recommend. We gotta go. I'm actually a member. Like I do the like every year membership thing because I'm there that often. Like last year it was almost my backyard because I lived on the Lower East Side. So there's a ferry on the Lower East Side. I can just like take the Lower East Side bike there. Dock it by the Staten Island ferry, and then the Governor's Island ferry is also just right there. And before all the government things started closing down, and if they start to open back up, if you've never signed up for the ID NYC card, it's pretty cool because it unlocks a lot of like free memberships around the city, like 1 year complimentary membership. So I never actually signed up for the Governor's Island one, and this year I did it and I got a free membership because of that ID NYC. Maybe and it cost me like $25 to register for the ID when I first moved here. And I used the membership for the Met, New York Botanical Garden.
Oh, shoot.
That's actually why I've never been to the Brooklyn Botanical Garden because they don't offer a free membership to that place, but they did for the New York one.
The Bronx.
Yeah, the Bronx one. Yeah, I think even the Museum of Natural History I got a pass to, and then also the New York City Ballet. I got like 2 free shows. I even took my grandpa.
I need to get in on this.
And then I think the ballet one in Lincoln Center, you can attend like 1 rehearsal or something, and they give you dates and stuff. So like these are all free, and they don't like super advertise it, but
that's why, because it's low key.
Yeah, I got that ID NYC before I got my New York State ID. Because it had all the good benefits, but you can't use it for like actual identification. Like you can't use it if you're drinking out in a bar or whatever, but you use that number to get all the free memberships. One of the best things I discovered was that Governor's Island one and all the museums.
Have to do that.
And like if you love biking, art, and just space, man, it's a 10-minute ferry ride. It's so good. Yeah, it's cool. It's awesome. Yeah,
and I think that.
Yeah, they have like hammocks, activities. I don't know what they're doing for the summer, but at this point, if you just want to like get away from everybody in a day trip, that doesn't cost a lot of money. I think if you don't have the card, it's $3 and you pay it online. You can reserve. You can do online reservations now, so they're also limiting the crowd, which is perfect. So it's still pretty safe.
Remember we were going to rent out a place with Martina and then we didn't do it?
That was that. It was Collective Retreats on Governor's Island.
Oh.
Yeah. They've changed, you know? They have a 3-night minimum now. Oh. And it was like $600. But everything's air conditioned. There's a bathroom now in each place. Because when I went and I camped, because I've done it. I've done the Collective Retreats there. It was a communal bathroom. It was at actual tent. Like, no. It's so much better now. It's a little bit more expensive. But,
for better things.
Yeah, for better things. And I think because the ferry only runs certain times, the Collective Retreats will have ferries, like private ferries from 4 to 7 or something like that.
Okay. So should we keep recommending spots in... Let's just finish like 1 or 2 in Bushwick now, since we're both kind of here.
Yeah.
And I'll say Sunnyside and you say Lower East Side.
Yeah, sure.
So from here, I just moved, so I don't know too much. Mm-hmm. But I've actually been... This is the only place around here that I've been to before I moved. And I love it, so I'm going to super recommend it. And it's a venue/bar called TVI. And that's where I saw the Starcrust Losers and Frankie Sunswept.
Oh.
I don't know if I...
But that was different from the one that was just Star-Crossed Losers, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
This was a different one.
Yeah, that was different.
But it's so cool because everything is retro, super vintage. Even like the booths where you like sit to eat, they have like this very old vibe, and they have like one of those radios that you put coins in to play music.
Oh, like a jukebox.
A jukebox. Cool. And then from that you enter a room, which is like a second bar, and then from there you enter a third room, and that's the venue where they play music. It's really cool.
Nice.
And it's like a hidden gem because it's in the middle of nowhere in Ridgewood. And it's like, now I'm close to it. Now it's like a 7-minute walk from here.
Something that's along in between Bushwick and Williamsburg is this place called Syndicated Bar. I think I've told you about it. I go grocery shopping near there. It's a grocery store called Food Story.
That sounds very familiar. I wonder if I've been.
I've been there once on a date, and I'm so mad that we didn't even bother to like watch a movie. Yeah, it's so cool. So it's for those of you who have never been, it's like it's a big giant space with like a square bar in the middle where you can order like beers and cocktails and things. But in the back of it, there's an actual movie theater where they show new movies and also old like reshow like old movies. But they're not even open now. But when things start to open back up, that's a really cool place to either go with your friends or even take yourself on a date.
Yeah, of course.
Cool.
All right.
So that's something in Bushwick.
And what about Lower East Side? Did you have a favorite spot when you were there?
Lower East Side. There's one on Avenue A. It's called Bob White's. They have like a really good chicken sandwich, biscuit chicken sandwich.
Bob White.
Bob White's.
Okay.
Yeah, and then if you after Bob White's, there's a place called ABC Wine and Co. And also Beer and Co. So they're all like 2 different shops, but they're right next to each other. The ABC wine or beer one, the beer one has like games. You can get like meats and cheeses and sit down. I don't know if they're doing that now, obviously, but when back then they had like Jenga and stuff like that. Cool. Yeah, like a kind of more up, like grown up place than like Fat Cat. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. Fat Cat is full of college kids.
Yeah, we've outgrown Fat Cat.
I was that college kid. Freshman year, that was like one of the first places that I went to, which leads us to
the next segment.
We want to do a round of firsts in New York, just because we think it's fun. It's nice to remember like the good old days when we were finding out all these awesome stuff in New York.
And just a disclaimer, we just wrote down like categories, so we're actually just going to ask ourselves these. We don't have our answers written down, so
it's like just speed round, whatever comes first. All right, so you go first.
Okay.
Like, ask the first one.
All right. So, what was your first NYC drink? I don't know why we put that down. I honestly cannot remember. But I'll just say, like, my go-to drink here is, like, a vodka soda. It's so boring.
Yeah. I think I did something similar, too.
Yeah.
But I do remember the first time I went out intentionally to a club in New York City. was for my 21st birthday. And it was Los Feliz in Lower East Side, I think. That's what it is. Yeah, it's actually I think it's a Mexican restaurant during the day, but then at night it's a club basically, and it's 2 floors. It's really fun. And actually, no, I didn't kiss that night, but I met the first guy in New York that I met.
Oh, so
there.
2 firsts that night.
Yeah. Actually, I thought it was the guy I mentioned before we started recording. But it wasn't him. Now that I think about it. It was this guy, Jay, I remember. We went on a few dates. Funny guy.
So that's 2 firsts. You got your first club and you got your first date-ish dude.
Yeah, because then after that night that we met, we dated a little bit. So, yeah.
First club pickup.
There we go. My first club pickup.
Let's see, what else?
What about you? First club.
First club? Oh my gosh, I don't even know. I think it was 230, the 5th rooftop. 230 and 5th rooftop. I went with, it's so funny because, like, I moved here when I was 21, and I'm not, like, the kind of person who, like, goes out to bars. But maybe the first one that really comes to mind, maybe not the first one I've been to, but the first one that comes to mind is, that 230 and 5th rooftop that's, like, everybody's been to. Honestly, the view is spectacular, but the place is so basic. It's such a tourist trap. Yeah. I wouldn't go. I highly recommend just going somewhere else.
It's like one of those places you go to, like, get it off the list.
Exactly. Yeah, there are better vantage points for, like, much better experiences. But if you want to go with a bunch of friends, it's an easy place to get reservations at this point because it's so accessible. They don't really turn a lot of people down. All right. First museum. Oh, gosh.
I definitely remember mine.
I don't know. Mine was like a kid. Probably Museum of Natural History, probably. Okay. That would be it.
I didn't get to go until much later. So the first one that I went to was like a photography museum, but I won't count it because that was like for a class. The one that I went to because I wanted to go to first was the Met.
Oh, and that's amazing.
To this day, that's like probably my favorite museum, next to the Brooklyn Museum. They're both like right at par. But the Met is huge, and every time you go, there's like new stuff to see, and like I love how it's categorized by country or like culture. And also you get a lot of like realism kind of art, because I'm not really a fan of modern art as much, or like contemporary, like the MoMA. I hate the MoMA.
Oh, I love the MoMA.
I don't like it. But the Met
I think that's the first one I've actually been to.
Oh, really?
Now that I'm thinking about it, but finish your thoughts.
No, that the Met is more romantic. It's like older artists usually.
Yeah, now that I think about it, I think I've been to the MoMA I think that was my first NYC museum. MoMA with my grandfather when I was a kid. I remember it so clearly now because it was raining so hard that day. We bought umbrellas off of the street and they broke almost immediately. And I remember that. And my grandparents, like, they own an art gallery, so, like, it was always so impressive in my child brain that, like, my grandfather could recognize the artist from afar. Yeah. And I would almost think, like, he was making up names because they're international artists from all over the world. I'm like, you're messing with me, it's not right. And then I'll go up close, read it, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. I gained a lot of respect for my grandfather that day, or just like kind of like as a kid, it's like, oh, you're cool.
That's so awesome. My dad is similar. My dad like knows every artist, even listening to music. He knows everything from like 70s, 50s to like freaking Miley Cyrus. He can just recognize everyone. Like, how?
That's crazy. And then before we move on from the museum thing, but my first date ever in my entire life was also at a museum, the Guggenheim. Oh. And the Guggenheim, I don't know. I would leave that at like the bottom of my list of like museums to see.
I don't think I've been.
They have a good like online store for like collectible like items and things, but other than that, I don't know. I was not impressed by the art. Which was okay, because I was there for my first date. And I think after that, I was so disappointed I've never been back since. Just the outside, because architectural...
Are you sure it was the museum or the dude?
It was probably the dude. I was in high school. Like, hormones? Come on.
Maybe you should try it one of these days and
To go back to the
it's a different
Guggenheim?
experience.
Maybe.
Yeah. First restaurant that you can remember.
Oh, man. Again, as a kid, somewhere in Chinatown. Like, that was the most memorable one. I don't even know if it still exists this day, but they had, like, really good rice things in those, like, leaves. And to this day, I can never even find that place anymore. But my stepdad used to take me to it.
Oh. You don't remember the name?
I wish, otherwise I'd be eating there and getting fat from there by now. But I have tried to look for that place since I've moved here. Like, I've even scoured, like, old pictures to see if, like, the napkin has the name of the restaurant. Because, like, I remember it being so good, so savory. I'll dug, right? Oh, gosh.
We'll find it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this wasn't, like, my very first restaurant, but it's like the first memory I have of like going with a group of friends to the city to eat at a restaurant. Dos Caminos. In Midtown. Mexican food. It's good. It's not the best Mexican food I've had, but it's good. It's a good brunch spot too. I remember we did bottomless. I wasn't even drinking back then, but I remember there was bottomless.
Ooh. I think there's a place in Midtown called Iguana. I'm not sure if that's the right name. It probably is. Somewhere in Midtown. And they make guac right in front of you, in front of that, that stone bowl. It's very good.
The stone one.
Yeah.
Park.
Oh, well, I guess Central Park. That's pretty basic. I don't even doubt that that's going to be the first park that I've been to, just because I used to be a Jersey kid.
I don't know what mine was. Maybe it was either Bryant or Central Park.
Oh, yeah, Bryant Park. That's right. I forgot about that. One of those, because we used to go ice skating there as kids.
I think mine could be Bryant's too, because I remember when I first started coming into the city, it was through Grand Central. I would come from White Plains because that's where I was studying. And Bryant Park is like right there. It's like a 5-minute walk from Grand Central. And then after that, you have Central Park. So it makes sense even like in like the direction to go to Central Park for me to stop at Bryant's first. So that's probably the one I saw first. Isn't
it so crazy? Like when I first moved to New York, all I knew was really Bryant Park, Rockefeller, and then Central Park. Now, we've talked about Herbert Von King, Prospect Park, Maria Hernandez. There's so many. Oh, there's also the Cooper one, McCarran Park, which you really love. Oh, man.
I used to bike there just to run in the morning and then come back and then shower and go to work.
Yeah.
Like, who does that? But it's such a great park and their track is beautiful.
And then you get a good view anyway of the city because it's right by the water.
Yeah.
There's a section of it that's right by the water.
I love Williamsburg. One day I'll live there.
Right, that's the dream. Okay.
Free event.
Technically, my answer was Governor's Island, so I won't really even go into it. Because it's technically free, and at most you spend $3. Bring snacks if you really don't want to spend anything. And water.
My first free event was... I was still in college, but we came all the way from the city for that, because it was free. It was Holy High. You know the Indian event?
Yeah, with the colors and everything.
Powder. It was so fun. And I don't... Back then, I knew nothing about New York, so I have no idea where we were.
Where were you?
It was Manhattan for sure,
but
I don't know. It could have been Lower East Side, it could have been West Village, Midtown. I couldn't tell the difference. I just followed all my friends.
For sure, now you can tell the difference. It's so funny.
Course.
It's like, okay, I have now entered Chinatown. Now I'm in Little Italy. Like, you can easily tell.
Which is so annoying that they're both in the same place.
I
know.
Anyway.
First show. Play or concert?
The thing that first comes up to mind is first play. I guess the most recent I can remember is Wicked. And I went with my aunt. My mom's younger sister.
That's one of the most popular ones.
Yeah, and that was so cool. Because, like... I didn't even dress up. It was just like, no, we're going to go. We're going to just watch a show. It's no big deal. Let's watch it. We got tickets. It was so cool. I think that's like the first one. Concert? I don't really know. I'm not the type of person to really go to concerts. So
we're the opposite.
Exactly.
I've barely gone to plays. And the times that I've been, it's because of someone else. Not because I'm like, hey, let's go to this play. But concerts, I had a whole phase, man, where that's all I did. Even in college, in my freshman year, I think it was. I had an assignment for a jazz class. I took jazz history. That we had to come to the city to Fat Cat. There were like 3 options: Fat Cat, 55 Bar, and I think Zinc Bar, which I highly recommend all 3. But I remember going to Fat Cat, and I saw this artist called Alison Wedding, and she's just like a random singer, jazz soloist, and I think she has like maybe a keyboard player that's always with her, but that's it. Like very low key. And I fell in love with her. To this day, I have like all her music. I know all her songs. And I met her that day, took a picture, bought a CD, like the whole thing. And I was like this tiny, like cute little freshman, so excited to like experience live jazz in New York. But I'll never forget that. And she's so good. Look her up.
And ever since then, so that's your super first like memorable show.
Yeah. Maybe we leave a link to something from her, because she's hard to find because she's so low-key, but it's worth listening to.
Yeah, like that's kind of what I want to end up doing moving forward, is like I actually regret not going with you to that Star-Crossed Lovers Night and Losers Night, because like
also
after that was the last show you saw, and then everything started shutting down.
No, I did go to TVI after.
Oh, okay. So there was like one more and then everything shut down. Yeah.
Which is crazy because that was like very close to quarantine. I wonder like how much time passed from TVI to like everything closing down. Maybe like it was like a few weeks. Yeah.
So that's how often you see shows. Yeah, that's it. And then what else?
Getting lost.
Oh my gosh, I've gotten lost so many times.
First time you got lost, you remember?
I don't.
That's a thing in New York. Like everyone.
Like I'm always getting lost. I mean, to this day, I still get lost. I'm a lot better now, and like sometimes I can navigate without a map. But I think, I don't know. There was one day, and this is not the first time, but just like a getting lost story, because I can't think of the first time. But there was one day my phone died.
That's always how it starts.
That's always how it starts. Because
you're you're like, oh man, now I'm in friggin' 53rd Street.
I was in Chinatown on a city bike, and I already had the city bike with me, so I had to run to the city bike station before my phone died so that I could get a bike. So this was like a whole thing. I was like, I just need to get to a dock and figure it out from there. That was a day. I was already living in Manhattan at the time. I felt so proud of myself at the end of the day, though, because
you got home.
I got home without any directions. It's like I knew where I was, and then that was like such a satisfying, self-fulfilling moment that it's like, feel like a New Yorker. Yeah. Because like what was I worried about, you know?
Yeah.
So it was good. I can kind of feel that way around Brooklyn now too, because I've lived in almost like the same neighborhood, but kind of inching closer towards certain areas.
Yeah, you're like a Bushwick, Williamsburg expert now.
So far, yeah. I mean, in terms of like getting around on a bike, but coffee shops, I still need you for recommendations. So it's a good team.
I think like when you get lost, that's really when you get to know the city and how to get around. Like you have to get lost, or else you're never. If you're always looking at the phone, you never really know how to get around.
Because you're not looking up. You're just like, all right, leave me.
Like follow directions. But when you're like left with no devices and you just gotta like look and see where you're going and like memorize streets and stuff, that's when you really get to know the city. And I've gotten lost twice in White Plains, because I lived in White Plains for like 4 months before moving to the city, and I remember the day that I got lost in White Plains. But after that day, I'm like, I know where everything is. And New York, I never got lost like in the street. I got lost in the subway system.
It's easier to get lost under there.
Oh my god, I had no idea like what train to take, what anything meant, because like every train has 2 directions, and like I had no idea what like Metropolitan Avenue meant, or because you know every train has like the last stop.
Yeah.
You have no idea what those stops mean at first.
Yeah, is it like, uptown, downtown?
Where does that go? You know? And I remember I had a friend with me, and I just gave up, and I'm like, I'm just gonna follow you, man. I have no idea where we are, what these trains are, where we're going. Like, I was so clueless. But then doing that a lot of times, like, you get the hang of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. Yeah. Those times getting lost. Sometimes I think when I also first moved in here, I thought I already knew where everything was. My brothers came to visit me and we went around in a circle. And I'm like, sorry guys, just took you around, but whatever.
Yeah. It takes, how long do you think it takes for you to know New York? Maybe like a year or two?
It depends also how outgoing you are.
Yeah.
Because like my job also took me to a lot of places. Because like I shoot weddings and engagement sessions, so usually those couples will pick a restaurant or a good hotel or like a good area. So like my job also took me to a lot of places, and that also like helped in the adjustment process. But I think if not for my job, I'm such an introvert that I wouldn't really seek out a lot of things anyway. So
well, that was good for you to get familiar with the city.
Yeah.
All right, first kiss.
Ooh, yeah, my first kiss
when
ever.
You've been waiting.
My first kiss, actually, in my whole entire life was in New York City, in Central Park.
That's so nice.
Yeah, in Central Park with, like, my first boyfriend, Central Park, under a tunnel. Oh my gosh, it actually got to a point where, like, it was movie-like, and then after that, it's like, okay, this is weird, because there are literally, like, so many people around us, that, like, some people were like, yeah, get it! And it's like, okay, we gotta, like, move out of here. Obviously, this is not appropriate anymore.
How was your first kiss? Was it good or
It was okay. Yeah, I think looking back, it was alright, because we enjoyed the train ride back. I was still living in Jersey at the time. I don't even really think my parents knew, or, like, my stepdad and my mom at the time didn't know, because I was playing it off, like, because when I was in high school, I was taking summer workshops at Fashion Institute of Technology. So for all they know, I'm just like hanging out with my FIT friends. But actually, my boyfriend at the time, or like during the first date, like he actually went into the city to meet up with me after one of my classes.
Oh,
yeah, sneaky. I never want to be a strict parent for that reason.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to be the chillest mom ever. And if I'm not, I want some friends to, like, check on me and be like, yo, you need to let your kids do their thing. Anyway.
So what's your first kiss?
In New York.
In New York.
Although my first real kiss, like...
Lips to lips.
Lips to lips, and, like, we both have functioning brains. Was in college in Westchester, because my first ever kiss was when I was like a little girl, like very little, like 4 or 5. Like, what is that, like a little peck? But like knowing what you're doing, sort of. My first kiss was in college, Westchester, but my first kiss in New York City was with the guy I was dating.
In college?
No. And it was in the 7 train. We had our first date. It was amazing. I actually really, really like this guy, and we're friends to this day. Awesome dude. And when I was about to take the 7 train, because I used to live in Sunnyside, right when the train arrived, we kissed. And yeah, at the 7 train stop in Grand Central, under like a little stair tunnel.
Ooh, how long did it last?
Maybe like 10 or 15 seconds.
Ooh.
The train had just arrived, but it was a good kiss. And
nice.
Then it was nice because it was rushed because the train was there. So like it all worked. It was good.
Nice. All right, first job. One. That's the last one.
My first job in the city, real job, full-time job, was in a creative agency in Long Island City, where I used to work until now, COVID-19.
Nice. Yeah, so you were there for how long?
Almost 3 years.
Almost out of college. I mean, you were interning and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, right out of college, I started working there. Because before college, I was part-time with them. So then when I graduated, I was full-time.
Nice. Yeah, my first job was the one I was talking about in Union Square. So that's why I also ended up on the L line, because that's where Union Square ends. So it's perfect. Didn't really have to think about it, kind of thing.
Cool.
Yeah. Awesome. So that's it.
That's it, guys. You learned a lot about us today.
So many. And we'll include all those links to the restaurants, coffee shops, and activities that you can do around the city. And we'll see you guys next week.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye. That was long. But
That was, but it was super
good.
Yeah.
That's good. Oh, my legs.
Right? Oh.